Jordan Marshall with 133 that game. Hang on just a moment. My mommy's calling. I got to answer for mom. I paused it. I said, hang on a minute. I got to answer my mommy.
All righty. So listen, this is for your Aunt Ellie, actually.
And I told him her name's Karen, and she doesn't like that her name's Karen and is associated with,
The mean girl.
The mean girl, yeah.
Because I'm not.
No, well, you are. You have some similarities to that stereotype.
Oh, I am so... You are so wrong.
Hey, it's Juck. At number one, the most beautiful uniform in all of sport. If they brought back the gray stripes, this thing is so far out in front of everybody, you can't touch it. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. Welcome into Juck on Bucks. Appreciate you so much for joining me. It is Thursday. I am extremely late. I apologize, guys. It's been difficult for me lately, keeping up on all the extra recruiting videos and then Buckeye Huddle prime time every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Tuesday, the round trip down to the Woody takes me like 6 hours. And now I'm writing more articles at Buckeye Huddle, which takes me a really long time because I'm not a very confident writer at this point. And I reread and tweak because I'm scared to embarrass myself. So it takes me a long time, but I apologize. I've certainly not been keeping up as well as I usually do. But today is Thursday, which means Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 9 days. 9 days away. How you feeling? I'm sitting here and I'm looking back at last year at this time. And one of the things that I really think is cool, and I thought was cool, even from the time I first started a YouTube channel, is, I didn't have any kind of course, everybody starts a YouTube channel and has like, okay, what's the best case scenario? What would be the coolest thing ever? And for me, that was 1,000 subscribers. And to be able to have a post-game show where I could get like 5 or 6 people in to talk to me about the game. That was like the ultimate dream. And I thought maybe I could get that done if I was consistent for a year. But the other thing that I thought would be cool, regardless if anybody ever watched, was I lost my dad suddenly out of nowhere to COVID. And one of the things that I was so regretful of is I had so little camera footage of my dad, his mannerisms, him talking. I've got nothing. I've got basically nothing at all. And the thought for me was my kids, my grandkids will be able to go back and look at me just sitting and talking and being myself. And I wished I had that so bad of my dad. And that was part of the reason I thought it would be really cool to start a YouTube channel. Now that's totally off of the topic here, but my point for this is I can go back last year before the game and, I can ask you how you were feeling. I can go back last year and watch exactly how I was feeling. I explain, I talk it all out for a week before the game. This is how I'm feeling before the game. And last year I tried so difficult to manufacture some kind of fear heading into the game. And it was so strange that I didn't have any. And there have been so many years where Ohio State's been a big favorite and I was fairly certain they would win, but I always had those butterflies, always had them. But that Michigan team last year was so incompetent, and the Buckeyes lost to that team with the quarterback throwing for 62 yards. And I just could not manufacture any kind of fear. Matter of fact, this was the thumbnail that I put up on the video. I believe the final video before the game. It was me and my buddy Chris Drew. The bill has come due for the maize and blue. Isn't that clever of me? Time's up with Jeremiah and Sonny, Quinshawn and Caleb. Time is up, man. Time is up. The bill has come due for the maize and blue. And Chris and I, he felt the same way. I watched a little bit of that show, and then I watched some of the post-game show today watch some of the post-game show. I've got a couple clips. Here's a clip from the post-game show, and I took maybe a half an hour before I hopped right onto the post-game show to calm myself, because something I do and something I know a lot of Buckeye fans do is whenever Michigan loses a big game, I'll pop in to their post-game shows and just kind of get the Schadenfreude enjoyment of listening to them freak out. And I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of popping in on, the Ohio State post-game shows and hearing me freak out. So I calmed myself as much as I could, try to be rational and cool. But here's a little snippet of last year's post-game show. There was no answers. He looked like you would expect him to look, absolutely shell-shocked. And he failed on every possible level today. I talked earlier in the week about growing up in the Cooper era. From 9 years old to the time I was 22 years old, John Cooper was the coach of the Buckeyes. And I'll be damned if it didn't feel like this, man. All week, I sat here and said, look, I'm trying to manufacture some kind of nerves for this game, because it hurts so much more when you're not nervous and you don't feel like you're like you might lose. I had no fear at all. Even this morning, even in the first quarter, things weren't looking so hot. I just didn't feel there was any way that this could possibly be an even game, but it sure was, man. It sure was. We're talking 234 total yards of offense for Blue, 252 for Ohio State. Even with Davis Warren, just 9 of 16 for 62 yards. You lost to a team with a quarterback that threw for 62 yards. Khalil Mullings, he was a beast, and no play bigger than his 27-yarder at the end there. Blue's been telling us forever that Ryan Day has a Michigan problem. Like, I have pushed back on that. I've absolutely pushed back on that. It seems pretty apparent at this point. He does have a Michigan problem. He's played other big games a hell of a lot better than he's played against them. So that was a snippet from last year's post game. Wow. You think back and you still can't explain it. We've got the book now that Bill Rabinowitz did, that I got the book. Talk about the meeting afterwards. Mitchell Melton talking to Ryan Day and asking, what have you learned these past 2 years? And Ryan Day saying, starting off the answer with, the running game, and you got the team that wins the rushing battle wins the game, and Mitch calling him out on that, not being satisfied with that answer. And it's clear that was in his head going into the game. I mean, that was confirmation. Despite throwing 33 passes in the game, which Ryan Day pointed out in his press conference on Tuesday after the game, very obviously shell-shocked and kind of pointed it out as if to say, like, no, I wasn't trying to do that. I wasn't trying to win tough or win on the ground, because he knew that that's what was being levied at him. But, the game so much different than it would have been had Will Howard not gotten dinged. Don't you believe that? Do you believe that or not? I don't know. I have a difficult time breaking this particular game down, because when we look at last year, logically, it never should have been close. You're a 24-point favorite this year. Ohio State right now in the look-ahead line before Michigan plays Maryland and Ohio State plays Rotgut. 12.5-point favorites heading into Ann Arbor. And that is, it's a huge line. It's a huge line. It's not 24 points, it's a huge line. But last year at 24 points, I didn't spend a minute breaking down the actual game or the actual matchups, because when you're a 24-point favorite, similar to this week with Rutgers, what's there to say? If you're a 24-point favorite, you got a pretty much better everywhere. Every matchup you win, except for one, the interior of the offensive line versus the interior of the defensive line last year. That was essentially the only battle. You didn't have the upper hand. And that was the battle that determined the game. And I got a sneaky suspicion that will not be the battle that determines the game this year. But Will Howard gets the concussion. And I actually thought at that point, because it was still early in the game, there's no way you're going to lose this game. And Devin Brown comes in off the bench. And my thought at that point is, this is set up for one of the most amazing stories we have ever seen in the history of the game. Devin Brown, his embattled career, losing 2 quarterback battles, stays there with a positive attitude, and he's a great teammate, and he gets to come in and play in this game because the quarterback got knocked out, and he can lead this team to victory and just have this one game, this one shining moment. Now, it turns out his one shining moment ended up being just the touchdown pass to Jeremiah Smith before halftime at Michigan State, which was a great moment to have. It was a cool moment for him. He goes on to transfer to Cal, only to lose the starting quarterback position to a freshman. And Sagapotelli is a hell of a freshman, but, he still lost it to a freshman, which sucks for him. And the good news coming out of that for Devin Brown is he's probably going to get into coaching. He's done a hell of a great job. I talked to someone who knows him very well, and the coaches are really relying on him on the sidelines for the iPad breakdowns and such. I mean, it sounds like the coaching staff is a total disaster there, that they are relying on their backup quarterback to help them with things, but he's very much helping them. And it would be really cool to see him get into coaching. Obviously, a guy with a great attitude, smart. Everybody loves him. So good for Devin. Glad that he found that at least. But it was set up for him to do this. Could he have done it? I don't know, man. I don't know. Was this guy ever? I mean, was he just bad? We don't know. We don't really know. We'll never get to know. We'll never see him play. Was he just straight up bad? How was he so close in these competitions? How was he beating McCord if he was just straight up bad? I don't know, but I wanted to see it. I was ready to see it. And then we saw Will running on the sideline, and Will looked like he was manufacturing that running and that hype. I mean, he was dinged up, and we saw it on the field. There is the clip of him in the end zone where he's clearly woozy. Some people tried to deny that. No doubt that he was woozy in my mind. But again, even at that point, even into the game, you're well into the game, quarter and a half, I'm still feeling like there is nothing to sweat here. Buckeyes are about to pop off here any minute. I just had so little respect for them being coached by Sharon Moore, who is a very nice guy. He's a fine guy. And I mean, he shots taken him personally, like I do a lot of coaches. Like there's a lot of coaches I have no respect for as a man, like Lincoln Riley or Brian Kelly. I think Sharon Moore is a nice guy. I think he's in way over his head. And I think he shows that on the sideline all the time. And you can go back just to the most recent game against Northwestern. Down 1 point, 41-yard field goal attempt sitting right in front of him, and he elects to go for it on 4th and 1 with 4 minutes left. Doesn't get it, gives the ball back to the Nerds. Now, the Nerds had just scored a touchdown on 2 of the previous 3 possessions, so it's not like the Michigan defense was swarming them or stopping them. And in that situation, what do you do? Well, he chose to go for it instead of kicking the field goal. Of note that the kicker had missed a 34-yarder in the first possession. But that's their All-American kicker. The dude's a stud. And he also missed a 60. So Michigan fans will say, well, he'd already missed 2. They tried a 60-yarder right before halftime. A 60-yarder is a wing and a prayer. That doesn't really factor into him missing a field goal. The 34-yarder, okay. But a 41-yarder, that guy in his career, I mean, he's got a very, very high make rate there. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back, man. You don't know if you're going to get the ball back. And if you trust your defense, will you trust your defense to stop them right there and get the ball back if you miss the field goal? So kick the field goal. He didn't kick the field goal. He got lucky. Northwestern minus 8 yards on their ensuing possession. Michigan gets the ball back and ends up driving down and kicking the game-winning field goal. But that is not even this guy has egregious end-of-game decisions with timeouts and clock management and such. He's just not ready for it still, all the way through 2 years now. Yet, he gets to say he came to Columbus and beat Ohio State. And he beat Nick Saban. He's got that on his resume, which is just wild when you look at the stupid decisions this guy makes. He's just in over his head. You absolutely cannot lose to this guy again. Could you imagine if Ryan Day lost to this dude 3 times? I mean, this guy's own fan base wants him fired, and he's 8-2, and they want him out of there. He's so bad. Now, what is the respect meter from you for this Michigan team this year? With the freshman quarterback, a clunky offense, their star player, Justice Haynes, out. His backup, Jordan Marshall, was running really well. He potentially may not play in the game. He's injured. You're down to their third string running back, who's a former walk-on out of Grand Rapids. Obviously gets the game. He's a local kid. And Sharon Moore said that as far as speed, he's in between Justice and Marshall. So a little faster than Marshall, not quite as physical. Marshall should have been a Buckeye, man. That still irks me. But what do we know of this Michigan team this year? Well, they lost to Oklahoma 24-13 at Oklahoma in Bryce Underwood's first big game. I take next to nothing out of that game. By the way, that was John Mateer's probably best game of the year. That Oklahoma team, a playoff team, that defense, awesome. Not quite as awesome as the one Bryce Underwood's about to face, but got things going a little better. Their next big game was at Nebraska 2 weeks later, I think. And they really showed their mettle at Nebraska. A lot of people picked Nebraska to win that game. Michigan showed their dominance up front against that Nebraska offensive line, which was terrible. That's their bugaboo this year. That's a huge fail by Matt Rule. You got yourself a 5-star quarterback. You do whatever you can to get an excellent offensive line to protect him, because that's your one shot. That's your one shot at potentially getting another 5-star quarterback. If that one is successful, a huge, huge oversight in his part by spreading out the money on the defense. No, you make that offense excellent to get yourself another 5-star quarterback. He didn't do it. So the defensive line for Michigan is still really, really good. And they mauled that offensive line. The offensive line for Michigan, really young this year, and they took a hit when they lost one of their studs early on, but they're coming around. Even the kid last year that sucked, their right tackle, the hell is his name? Link? Is it Link? He was terrible. I was making fun of him last year. Like, he's even better this year. They look like a really good unit now that's coming around, and they are very young. They'll be much better next year, the whole team. So they beat Nebraska. Then they go and beat Wisconsin 24-10. And then they got the big one against USC. That was a night game that I'm sure most of you watched. And they got mollywopped by SC 31-13. Could have been worse. Bryce Underwood on the sideline, both after going down 24-10 and 31-13, smiling and laughing. Now, he's a nice kid. He's got a nice disposition. I get it. You don't want to always be sullen and sour, and you want to be positive and upbeat. But you can't be laughing on the sideline when you're the leader of the team and you are down that much in a game that is one of the biggest games of the year. You just can't get caught doing that. I mean, and they do a lot of they're a very undisciplined team. You constantly see guys every time I'm watching them. Let's say just the opposing team, the rusher goes out of bounds on the Michigan sideline. Like, the guys that are just standing there will just try to slap the ball out of his hands. Like, you had the two guys, the staffers that worked for Michigan, walk up to the stands, and the one Michigan staffer slapped the guy in the stands that one time last year. This seems like it'd be a very undisciplined group over there. But Bryce Underwood laughing on the sidelines kind of fits in with that. And I fully admit I had Bryce Underwood all wrong. This is a kid that I was originally saying, like, look, I'm having a hard time disliking this guy. I really like him. He's a nice, humble kid. He's confident, but he's not cocky. And I that changed real fast. I was way off on that. I read him wrong early on, but a great talent who I personally, coming into the year, thought was going to be probably better this year than he has been. I thought they would rely a little more on his legs. I thought we'd see a lot more rushing, and I thought it would go better rushing. And I thought the passing game would come around. But I thought that next year he would be a total stud, top 7-8 quarterback in the country. Not so sure if I believe that anymore. So after the USC drubbing, they've got Washington at home, and they beat them 24-7, and the defense does exactly what Ohio State does against Damon Williams. He got nothing. Got picked off 3 times, minus 19 yards on the ground, 200 total yards passing. He was terrible, and you can say, well, he had his worst game of the year against them. Well, yeah, they forced him to have his worst game of the year. They shut him down, just like Ohio State did. Bryce had 230 in that game, and he was 21 for 27, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's a hell of a game. Jordan Marshall with 133 that game. All right, we're back. I'm sorry. Aunt Ellie needed to talk about how to spatchcock a turkey, which I always spatchcock a turkey. If you don't spatchcock your turkey, you're doing it wrong. You got to spatchcock the turkey. Now, it's a little difficult to cut that spine out. Spatchcock, you lay it flat. It's a little difficult to do that, but man, once you do that, you will never do a turkey any different. Forget frying it. You don't need to go through all that. The oil and everything is a pain in the butt. Just spatchcock the bird, cooks even, perfect, everything juicy. Mom's name's Karen. Her name is Karen, and she is so upset about that. She's so upset about the Karen meme or the stereotype. But the truth is, anyway, where were we? Michigan. So, Jordan Marshall against Purdue was excellent. Purdue, they only win 21-16. The team that Ohio State absolutely demolished. And they were at home. Ohio State on the road. Jordan Marshall in that game was, rushed for like 190 yards. And I think their second back ran for 50. They just ran all over Purdue. So a good running game. But Bryce, not good again. I think he was like 13-24 or something. Now, in his defense, and he has a very poor completion percentage, it's like 60%, but a lot of drops, like 19 drops for the Michigan program this year. Indiana and Ohio State have about 9 combined on the year. At least that was before the UCLA game. I don't know how many drops were credited to the Buckeyes in the UCLA game, but then they go to Northwestern. They go to Wrigley Field to play Northwestern. That was their most recent game. And they turned the ball over 5 times to none. 5 times to none, and they still won the game, which honestly, if you lose the turnover battle by 5 and you win the game, you dominated. I mean, what else can you say there? And that Northwestern team is a scrappy team. They really are. Jordan Marshall rushes for 142. Underwood was 21 for 32 for 280. No touchdowns, 2 picks. So not the best performance, and the picks were bad. And the thing is with Underwood is he has got a rifle. It's got one trajectory. It's got one speed. He has very little touch. He just throws the ball one way, and he's not that good. Sometimes he locks on. He's not that good yet at throwing the ball. Somebody asked me the other day, how is Michigan going to score on Ohio State? How do they? I'd love to know. I mean, last year they only scored 13. Underwood's clearly better, but is he going to be able to run the ball with Arvell spying on him? Hell no. No, I don't care who you are. Damon Williams, obviously a much better athlete, or much quicker, more elusive runner than Underwood. Underwood's a very good runner. But DeMond is better. Arvell shut him down, spying on him. He'll do the same with Underwood, and Underwood isn't trucking him. So that takes away the quarterback run right there. Are they going to be able to pass the ball on the Ohio State secondary? I mean, Andrew Marsh, really good. He's emerged. Andrew Marsh is a wide receiver out of Texas, a freshman that Brian Hartline wanted. Brian Hartline offered, and that is not something that usually happens at Michigan, getting a quarterback that Brian Hartline, or a wide receiver that Brian Hartline offered. And he has proven that he is definitely worthy. The kid is good. He's good. Some chemistry going on with Underwood. But is he going to be able to do that against the Ohio State secondary? They got Donovan McCauley, too, who I made fun of, a Michigan YouTube guy who compared him to Calvin Johnson in the offseason. Donovan McCauley, a converted quarterback from Indiana who transferred out of Indiana to Michigan, got number one. He's wearing number one at Michigan, the coveted number one. They gave it to this kid, and he's got the frame. He can win some 50-50 balls, but all in all, he's not a very polished receiver. Are these guys going to be able to have much of a passing game against Ohio State? I don't think so. But how much do they need to score? How good can their defense be against Ohio State's offense? That's probably going to determine the game, right? On defense, I made fun of him last year about Jayshon Barham too. Transfer from Maryland, big, intimidating looking linebacker. And he certainly was not the All-American that they thought he would be last year. Well, they moved him down to the edge. He's a dude. He's a total dude. Ohio State's not faced many great pass rushers this year. I think he's got a chance to cause some damage. They got a really good linebacker too with Ernest Hausman. He's very good. Definitely they got the ability to rush the passer. The blueprint has been laid by the likes of Purdue and Wisconsin, how to get heat on Ohio State, stunt the hell out of them. And obviously Michigan is a blitz happy program under Wink. So they're going to blitz a lot. The Buckeyes are going to have to be on their P's and Q's, man, because they're coming. So we're probably looking at a lot of check downs, a lot of small stuff. Is Ohio State going to be able to run the ball on them? Facing Rutgers gives up 6.7 yards a carry. So I fully anticipate this game Saturday going to be another game like UCLA where Ohio State is clicking in the run game, but it might be a bit of fool's gold. Rutgers the worst against the run in the country, damn near. I think they might be. They're definitely the worst in the Big Ten. So defensively, Michigan right now is number 10 in the country in yards per play, number 13 in points per play. That's very good. In yards allowed per game, they're 14th. All this is very good. But again, these guys have played an abnormally mild schedule up to this point. Really the only high-powered offense they played. I mean, even against Oklahoma, not a high-powered offense. USC, that's it. The Buckeyes, a high-powered offense. As for the Buckeyes, I don't know that we really have any idea how they're playing right now. Let me rephrase that. We know they're playing good. We have no idea how it translates to a talented opponent, as they are now entering this Saturday their 5th game in a row as a huge favorite. We don't know what any of this looks like against a good team yet. We can think and anticipate all we want that this efficient offense that is averaging, scoring on 6 of 8 possessions. Well, you face a good team. Maybe that's only 5 of 8 possessions. And maybe out of that 5, instead of, 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals, maybe it's 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. That's 27 points. Can Michigan score 27 points? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. But we just don't know. We've not seen him play against a good opponent. And this is obviously what people around the country have been saying to knock Ohio State. We haven't seen him play anybody since Texas. And Texas wasn't the real Ohio State. And Illinois is now ranked in the newest college football playoff ranking. So that's cool. You got another ranked win in there. But let's be honest, man. Illinois is not that good. They're just not that good. Washington, a pretty good team, but they're not that good. That more than anything was about the spot that made it difficult. You had to travel out to the West Coast, play at a tough stadium against a team. This is Jed Fish's second year. They're going to be good. They're not that good this year. So, it's true what they say that Ohio State hasn't really played anybody. It's all true. However, you can look at this team, and if you don't know watching this Ohio State team, that is most likely, even if you're someone who hates the fact that this is true, that they haven't played anybody, like, yeah, that's probably the best team. You look at these players. Now you can say, would those players be as good against better competition? You can say all that. But when you look at this team on the offensive and defense side of the ball, execute, you say, yeah, that's an excellent team. I think there's a ton to be gained by facing a difficult schedule. For instance, you look at Georgia this year, who, and it's, you know what, let me rephrase that. I think there's a lot to be said for playing close games during the season, close games that test and challenge you and get you ready for that test. And, there's part of me that just loathes the fact that we've played so many not close games at all in the second half, because you want that in the memory bank. You want that positive momentum for when you get in the close game of how we handle it, how we do things. And Georgia, for instance, should not have been in as many close games as they were, but they won them all. And when I look at that momentum that's helped them build, like now things are clicking on all cylinders, and they got the experience of winning those close games. To me, that's the most dangerous opponent for the Buckeyes in the playoffs. It's Georgia, which is also the team that I want in the playoffs. I want Georgia at some point. If you've been watching me for any amount of time, you know what this is about. This is the team that has been the standard bearer of college football. And if Ohio State wins a national championship this year, they officially take that over. Georgia went back-to-back, 21-22, and they were the guy throughout 21, 22, 23, even through 24. That is the team. It's Georgia. They get all the deference. Everybody bows down. Ohio State, if they win their second one back-to-back, it is unequivocally Ohio State, but it would be even sweeter if they could take it from them on the field, and that's what I want to see. But of course, I'm getting ahead of myself now. This is, look, bottom line, I just want to know what you guys are thinking. So here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow's show, it's going to be essentially a little bit of a mailbag. Put whatever you want to talk about in the comments section. We're going to do our 10 questions like we always do, heading into this Rutgers game. And, I just watched finally got done with the All 22, and there's just not a lot to say about that UCLA game. There's nothing revelatory that we didn't all see playing out in the regular copy. But put whatever you want to talk about in the comments. We'll talk about it tomorrow. And Buckeye Huddle Primetime on Monday and Wednesday, guys, we're now doing a call-in show. So not a call-in show. I do my segments for about 40 minutes, and then I take a couple of phone calls. And next week, if you got something you want to talk about, pop in onto Buckeye Huddle Primetime and call in on the show. It's real easy. You don't got to be on the screen. Just click in the StreamYard link in the description. But I'm trying to get that going. So if you haven't come checked that out, please do every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. And please subscribe to Juck on Bucks. If you are new to the channel, I appreciate you. Now, obviously, the biggest conversation heading into the game is JJ and Carnell. And the fact that we're talking about both of these guys is really insane, isn't it? Both of these guys, man. Like, how did we get here? How did we get here? This is 3 weeks ago. We're just talking about these are the two best wide receivers in the country, and they're just killing everybody. And we got the game in 9 days. Ryan Day, of course, was asked on Tuesday and Wednesday about the injuries, 7 different ways to try to get some information out of him. And he did release a little bit of information. I don't know if he intentionally did it, but there's a lot of people still freaking out about this. And maybe more so after Wednesday's answer to, or was it Tuesday's? Tuesday's answers, when he said, they're working hard to get back on the field and they're in good spirits. And I've been on all the Ohio State message boards, and there's a lot of people that are really irritated with the way Ohio State handles injury information, and they are really cagey. Some people will throw out, well, it's HIPAA violation. That's not a HIPAA violation. A HIPAA violation is that's for medical personnel releasing information to other people. And what actually applies in this case would be a FERPA violation, but the coach doesn't need to disseminate information about the specific injury to be straight up with what's happening, right? Ohio State chooses not to, and that's their prerogative. Though I will say, there are certain ways that when you go about it, it makes it worse. It makes it worse, and it brings up, and I actually think it puts the player in a very difficult situation and the target of fan base ire, which you can say, well, Ohio State doesn't care about that. Well, sure they do. The fan base ire, Bill Rabinowitz tells us almost had Ryan Day ready to walk out on his job last year. Of course that matters. You don't want to put your players in that situation. You don't want to put your players in the situation when they're saying Carnell Tate is going to quit on the team like Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's what they're saying, not me. But when the timeline of events based on what you say as the coach creates more questions than answers, I think you're doing a disservice to the player. And admittedly, not an easy situation, especially because things can change. Things can change. But this is a traumatized fan base. You look at Nick, you look at JSN, we've lost our star players at times to injuries, and they've shut it down. But Day was asked several times in a lot of different ways. And after the Purdue game, when he said that Carnell was held out, but probably could have gone due to tightness, right? Said he probably could have gone. We went from that to street close against UCLA. And then to trying as hard as they can to get back in good spirits. And in good spirits is what you say about someone who has been, down and like they're in good spirits. They're not super depressed about it. Like, wait, you said he could have gone. Like, this sounds like it's precautionary, and now sounds like it's something. I get it. He was asked about Jeremiah in the Illinois game, and here's where he gave a little information. Remember the hit against Illinois. He goes out. You got Austin Sareveld, Max Clare, lead blocking. There is one guy they got to pick up, and JJ's going to house it from 40. And Max Clare does not block the guy. It wasn't Austin's assignment. It was Max's. And the dude gets a free shot at JJ. He takes a bad hit. He grabs his back. He was asked if that was the hit that led to the issue. He said, not that I know of. And then he was asked if there was a setback against UCLA. He said, not that I know of. And that confirms something important. The limp that Jeremiah had after the game against UCLA did not happen during the game against UCLA. So whatever was ailing him before the UCLA game, but he played anyway, which tells us something very important. If he already had that injury and he was questionable on the report, if that injury could have been further aggravated by playing against UCLA, they would not have played him. Not a chance in the world. Which tells us if it wasn't caused or furthered against UCLA, and he already had it, and they played him, that it's just soreness. It's just soreness. We've seen how he can perform with this ailment, whatever it is that's ailing him. And his performance did not decline one bit. 4 for 40. He looked electric. Had the bossest one-hand catch you ever seen. And this lines up with everything I've heard as well, that he's fine. He's playing against Michigan. He's dinged up like everybody. So whether or not he plays against Rutgers, who cares? I don't think he will. I don't think Carnell will. Obviously, JJ's out of the Heisman race now, which, I love to see our guys break records and get stats and awards. And he hates sitting down. Like, that was 100% Jeremiah's call to play in the first half against UCLA. I guarantee they wanted him to sit that out. But if they know that he can't worsen the injury, it's just a long time healing injury, and it's not going to get any worse by playing, he wants to play. With what he gives to the program, man, you're his coach, but yeah, you let him play. Like, you love that. You admire that. And if there's no chance of him hurting himself further, you let him play. So I think we can all feel really good about the JJ situation. As far as Carnell, this one is a little more mysterious. I believe I would put it at 90% certainty. I feel he'll be on the field playing great against Michigan. But there is just a little bit that that I feel about the Carnell situation that I don't feel about the JJ situation. Matter of fact, thinking back to the Big Ten, what do you call it? Big Ten media days. Do you remember JJ talking about Michigan? How much he hates them? Asked him why. I don't know. I just hate those guys. The reason that he hates them, and he probably doesn't even realize it, is loyalty. If you got a problem with his family and his family's got a problem with you, then he's got a problem with you, which I love so much about this kid. He is the perfect teammate. He's the perfect football player. He's so special. It's just amazing. It's just amazing, man. He's got it all. I mean, everything. He checks not only does he check every box, he's like the top 5% in every box. An effort guy, yes. A study guy, a teammate, a loyal teammate. And that's all the off the field stuff. How hard does he work? Like he's top 5% in every single category you could possibly break down for a football player. It's just amazing. I don't know that we'll ever see another one like him. I don't know that we've ever seen one since him. A guy that's that good, that works that hard, that is so beloved by his teammates. And when you factor in the fame and how well he's dealt with it, he crossed over into mainstream fame a long time ago, like well outside of the realm of college football famous. This dude is famous, American famous, which is really cool, really hard to do. And it shows the power of Ohio State. Is he that famous if he goes to Miami or Florida State? No. He's not. He's every bit the football player, but he is not that famous. So, but last year watching the game, I remember talking to my brother during the game. Do you remember when that Michigan DB was playing press man on JJ and he just chucked him? He chucked him with such an attitude. By the way, JJ's already been playing with a much bigger attitude this year than he was last year. It kind of started in that game right there. It was a different feel, and you knew right then, man, he hates these guys, and that is glorious because you don't always see that right off the rip with young dudes in the game. He gets it, and even Michigan fans love that. We want players to play like that in that game. We don't want them to be stupid and get G. Scott penalties, but we want to see that in the game. It's awesome. You love it. I can't wait for this one, man. We will not be live during that game. I live stream a lot of games. I will not be live streaming that game. I need to. I won't be able to keep up and entertain with you guys. I'm a basket case during that game. Maybe if it's a blowout at halftime, we'll pop up. But I had a whole lot of other things to talk about today. I guess I'll just roll them into tomorrow's show because I see I've rambled on for 45 minutes now. So that is probably all we're going to get to today. But I do appreciate you guys so much. Again, in the comments, leave anything you would like to see hit on. on tomorrow's show, whether it's recruiting, anything, and we will talk about it. And we have got, geez, man, the worst slate of games this weekend I think I've ever seen. I'm probably being a little bit hyperbolic here, but it is so bad. I mean, it is so bad. And there's a lot of times we say that, and you'll hear everybody say, "Oh, these are the weeks that everything goes crazy." I don't think that's going to be the case this week. I don't think it's going to be the case this week. You've got the USC Oregon game, which is going to be awesome. USC, a 9.5-point underdog. Give me USC all day on that. I think SC is going to surprise Oregon. Don't know if they'll win, but that 9.5 seems like way too many points. Also, I've kind of gone a little backwards on how I feel about Oregon. I just don't feel like they're it this year. They've had some flashes here and there, but ever since that Indiana game, it's just like, you know, they barely win at Iowa, and Iowa's good, but I just am not feeling them. I wouldn't be surprised if USC wins. USC needs to win to stay in the playoff hunt. Oregon, should they lose, they've got Washington next week. That'll be their second loss. And there is a scenario where they don't get in with 2 losses. So it's a massive game for both programs. The second biggest game of the weekend, you've got Oklahoma and Missouri. Oklahoma, you would say, needs to win to stay in the playoff hunt. They've got 2 losses already. But to be honest, there's a chance they get in with 3 losses. And that right there is the second biggest game of the week. Missouri, obviously, Bo Pribula was injured earlier. Is he still injured? There's talk that he may come back for this game. And, you know, his game is he runs a lot. He's a mobile quarterback. Oklahoma's got a great defense. Like, this is not going to be much of a game. Oklahoma's going to mollywop them. The next biggest game is BYU at Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, this game could have been huge, but they lost last week and blew their chances to make it to the Big 12 championship game. So now that is the next biggest game, BYU at Cincinnati. That is the only game in the evening time slot that looks appealing at all. You got Tennessee, Florida. You've got Wisconsin, Illinois. It's drivel. It's just a terrible slate of games. If you have got something to do with your wife or your family and you want to look like a hero, that you are sacrificing some of your college football Saturday to do a project or go to the store, you know, this is the weekend to do it. It's terrible. And then we got rivalry week, guys, and we got Thanksgiving. And holy guacamole, is next week Thanksgiving? Hold on. Do you want to know how out of tune I am? I am so out of tune that my mom and Aunt Ellie just called me asking me how to spatchcock a turkey. Aunt Ellen talked about needing to thaw it. She's putting in the fridge right now. All this conversation, and it never dawned on me that Thanksgiving is a week from today. Didn't even dawn on me. Here's one thing I promise. If you are someone who doesn't have a great Thanksgiving or great plans or do a whole lot with your family, and you absolutely cannot stand it on the holidays when there is no new content to watch and you miss all your shows, you got these people the week before Christmas or after Christmas, they play nothing but reruns. You will get a episode of Juck on Bucks on Thanksgiving. You will get it on Friday as well. We don't stop here. We don't stop for holidays. We don't stop for weekends. We go. We push, because I am 20 years at least behind. I'm 20 years behind my competition in the field. So I got to work 20 times harder. But you will get your new episode on Thanksgiving. So you can be sure of that. Christmas too, Christmas Eve as well. All of the days where nobody else is working, we're grinding here because You guys deserve it. And I appreciate all you've done for me as we keep on rolling. I got an email from a CNN producer yesterday. A CNN producer. Now, I'm not a cable news guy. This is not a political statement. I don't want to hear any of it. She said that one of their hosts of their CNN shows is an Ohio State former baseball player. And he loves the show and wants to book the show, wants to book coming on the show. Which was amazing, right? Really cool. It's just cool, right? I don't know who the guy is. I don't watch cable news, but I thought it was pretty cool that I got an email from a CNN producer. So things are going great, man. Things are going great. But I appreciate you guys. Again, comments in the comment section today. Anything you want to talk about. I do have a whole lot of other things I want to talk about. As you can see, like, you see what's scrolling on the bottom of the screen? Yeah, those were all topics we were going to talk about today. Unfortunately, topic number one kind of monopolized the entire show. But that's what it is. I guess the thumbnail for this one is just going to be Bryce Underwood and Julian Sayin. Let's say we'll do that. And just put 9 days. All right, that's what it'll be. Appreciate you guys. Talk to you soon. Please subscribe and like the video. JUCK'S out.